Right. Okay, well, fabulous. Welcome, everybody. So nice to meet you. So nice to meet it's so wonderful to see that people are spread all over the Southern Hemisphere. My name's Gerda Kollman. I'm a financial planner. I have been one since 1993, so that's 27 years. So I don't really know much else. I do have other hobbies. I'm a grandmother, a runner, and all sorts of things. But anyway, what I'm here to talk to you about today is money, because money is one of those subjects that are pretty taboo. It's not something you discuss openly about how much you have or how much you don't have. It's generally regarded as a bit of a secret, and most people, the way they handle their money is, if they've got it, they spend it. If you've got an ATM card, you keep drawing until it spits your card out and says insufficient funds. You pay your bills every month. The debit orders come off if there's not enough money. Well, then it bounces. But what I want to talk to you today is about paying yourself. So we're going to talk about financial savvy, and I'm going to be sharing the screen with you. So, oopsie, let me just quickly do this, otherwise I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to share the screen. All right. Here we go. Okay. You will see that financial savvy in the staircase, eh? All right. There's so much to say, but anyway, what I'm going to be talking to you about are just a couple of really important things that I think young people should be looking at, and as early as possible, and you are the ideal audience. So something that Will Rogers says, and that's probably the way most of us live, is that too many people spend the money they earn to buy things they don't want, to impress people they don't like. And if you think about that for a moment, it really sums up how a lot of us live, looking around and saying, I think I'd like a white sofa. Never mind that a white sofa is the most impractical thing you could ever earn, but you're thinking, well, if people come to visit me, they're going to love my white sofa. People don't actually care. So that's it's just something, when you are spending money, think about who you're buying it for. Is it yourself or is it for someone else? Okay, so as I said before, you're at the most important juncture in life. The sooner you start worrying about your money and how you spend it and where it comes from and where it goes, the better. I've been doing this for so long, and I find that people are earning their money, spending it until it's gone, not really planning anything. Kind of hoping for the best and thinking, well, if I run out of money, hopefully someone's going to bail me out. I'm just going to keep buying those lotto tickets. Something will work out. But the truth is, the younger you start getting your life in order financially, the better. And I'm going to show you a very interesting slide in a moment. So the first thing you need to do is you need to have a plan. Right, and here's your plan. Okay, so this is a template, and if you're short-sighted like me, you might have to lean all the way up to the screen to have a good look at it. But really what it is, it's a budget, and it's something that each of you should have, where you write things down and you total them up at the end of every month. So it's things like your rent, electricity, water, rates, levies, food, petrol, short-term insurance, life insurance, school fees, if you have DSTV, security, credit cards, store cards, gym fees, clothing, children's sundries, repairs, car repayments, medical aids, and other. Now, there's a lot under other. I mean, other could be car repairs, it could be medical aid co-payments, it could be shoes. I mean, it could be a number of things. And one thing that should be on this list is you, and it should be in capital letters, Y-O-U. you need to pay yourself as well. Because what we do is we pay other people, we pay all our debts, we pay our taxes, and we never pay ourselves. So we should actually put you right at the top here, where it says expenses, personal, you need to pay yourself. And I'm going to show you a couple of ways of doing that, because everybody says, oh, by the time I've paid all this, I don't have any money to pay me. Okay, so in the first column, you have a look at what are my current expenses. So that's every month. The other thing you can do is have a look just for 1 month and save all your till slips. Now that's something that's going to be very interesting. We'll say, save all your till slips for a month, and you'll have a little book that'll tell you why you're broke. And that is it. Because you forget what you spend your money on. Then it's a pie here and a Coke there and a pair of socks there and all sorts of things. And if you just for 1 month keep every single till slip you have, and then at the end of the month go through it and say, wow, look at all this money I spent. And this is not even stuff that's on this list. This would be under other. You ask yourself, so why did I buy this? And what is this anyway? What's that shop? I can't remember buying that. You'll surprise yourself. Okay. The next column is, what are you going to need if you become disabled? Now think about that, especially you guys. You're going to be in your own businesses. What's going to happen to your business if you get disabled? Is the business going to have to fold? Are you in a situation where you've got people who can take over the business for you and run it while you still own it and earn an income? What if you need to generate money to keep the overheads running? Now, there are a whole bunch of insurance products that can help you with all these things, but that's a subject for another day, because you can get overhead expenses cover for your company, which will cover rent and staff salaries and all that kind of thing, replace your income. All right, next column is what happens if you get retrenched? What's going to happen? Which of these fees are still going to be needed to be paid? And say, well, what if I get retrenched? Then what? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my home? What is going to happen to my business? Then have a look at retirement. When I retire, how much of this am I still going to need? So your situation when you retire is going to be very different. Things like school fees are probably not going to be there anymore. Children's sundries are probably not going to be there anymore, although you may be looking after grandchildren like I am today. She's sleeping at the moment, but it happens. So your medical aid might go down because you no longer have your children on it. So think about what you're going to need at retirement. Make a little list like this, look at it, total it up, and you're going to have a very good idea of your situation. And I call it your financial needs template, just to give you a big overview. And then in the last column, you look at on death. What's going to happen on death? So on death, I don't need to pay my bond anymore because I don't need my house, unless I've got other people living in it. They're not paying the bond at the moment. Who's going to pay for it? So think of that. It's a very morbid subject, but it's something you need to think about, because there are two things in life that are certain, and the one is death and the other one is taxes, sadly. And at the moment it's COVID-19, which is a real pain in the neck, but what can we do? So on death, go through the list and say, well, what's still relevant? What still needs to be paid? Who am I supporting financially? And make a column and think about, right, what am I going to need? We don't think about any of this happening, but sadly it does. So there we go. There's your plan. Okay. So what I would suggest for somebody your age is to save, save, save. There are a number of ways to do this. Okay. First one I'm going to talk about is how and how much. Well, the how much is how much can you afford. Once you've opened that little packet of till slips after the end of the month, and you go, oh, look at all this stuff, I don't know what this is, maybe I shouldn't have bought this, oh, where is it? I don't even know what it is. So what you can do is every time, and I do this, and it's the most amazing exercise to do. I have a little bank bag just a normal bank bag, but you can really use anything, a Ziploc bag or whatever. And every night I open up my purse and I take some money out. And some days it's 5 Rand and some days it's 10 Rand. Sometimes it's just 2 Rand and sometimes it's 20 Rand. And every day I put something in there. And I call this paying myself. The thing with this is it doesn't hurt. You don't actually feel it. Whereas if you've got a debit order coming off your account, you start thinking, oh my goodness, I've got my savings debit order coming off. I actually think I should not, I'm going to let that one not go through because I've got something else to pay. We think we are the least important people. Meanwhile, you are the most important person. You've got to look after yourself first. So put money away. So the first thing you've got to do is pay yourself. Pay yourself every single day. Doesn't matter how much. Anything, you put it into the bag. The bag has a non-return valve. Now, what that means is you can't put money, you can't take money out of it to give someone a tip or pay a car guard or think, oh, I'm short of cash here, let me take money out of my magic bag. It's a magic bag, it's your money. You're paying yourself. So then what you do at the end of the month, you have a look at how much there is and you go and deposit it in a savings account. So you go to the bank, you open a savings account, be very careful about the costs involved with the savings account. You can get savings accounts and then they charge you 20 Rand a month. Now that's counterproductive. You may only be putting 20 Rand a month in there. So go and find one that has no or very low costs, and you can get those. You just have to do some homework, ask at your bank, and you put that money in there, and you'll be amazed how much you save. The other thing I do when I pay myself is if I'm planning to spend some money. So let's say I need, or I'm meeting a friend for coffee and I'm expecting to pay. And then the friend says, no, don't worry, I'm going to pay. I think, okay, well, when I get home, I think, well, I would have spent maybe 70 Rand on that. The 70 Rand goes into my magic pay myself bag. If I am looking for a pair of shoes, and I think, well, I'm prepared to spend 250 Rand and they're on sale and I get them for 125 Rand, I take the balance, the 125 Rand, and put that into my Save Myself account. Now, sometimes it's easier just to transfer the money into the account rather than to have the cash and put it into the plastic bag. So you're going to have to figure that out yourself. But the important thing is pay yourself any money that you were not expecting, with money that you were expecting to spend and didn't. Pay yourself with that as well. You'll thank yourself. I'll tell you something. I've been doing this for a while and I have my Pay Myself account and it's been a couple of years, but I've got 14,000 Rand sitting in there. I am not taking any of it out. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it, but I do like looking at the balance. It does make me feel very good and it feels like it's fallen out the sky because it didn't hurt me. It was never, oh my goodness, I can't afford to put this money. It's little bits that have come in and it's just added up and added up. And also you get the magic of compounded interest. I'm going to show you a slide after this. Okay, the other way you can save is you can commit to a monthly amount. That's where you say, right, every month I am going to put something away. This is the one where you you actually feel this, that it may work better for you than the pay yourself into a plastic bag or into a savings account, where you say, right, I would like to start something on a monthly basis, where you can have some sort of savings plan through an insurer or through your bank or something where a fixed amount comes off your bank account every month, be it 100 Rand or 200 Rand or whatever you can afford, and it's gone. It disappears and you don't even think about it and you don't look at the balance and it just grows and grows and grows, and then as it grows it earns interest and then you earn interest on the interest. Important thing about doing that, if you commit to a monthly amount, is that you build in an annual increase. So you say, right, I'm going to commit myself to 100 Rand. I think next year, let's say I expect to generate 5% more income. then you increase it by 5%. So make sure that you increase it, because if you look 20 years later and you're still putting in 100 Rand a month, you think, well, that's not anything. So make sure you keep up with inflation. All right, oopsie, let me just, oh, hold on, go back. That excited finger here. All right, what I wanted to show you here, okay, these are dollars, but nevertheless, okay, this is just to show you, if you start saving early, what the effects are. So here we have Susan. Susan invests 5,000 Rand annually between the ages of 25 and 35. So she only invests for 10 years. So she starts here. So this is the grey line. The grey line is actually going over the blue line, which is a bit difficult to see. And there she goes, and she invests just for 10 years. So what happens is by the time she's 65, it's worth 602,000. Okay, and all she's put in is 50,000 Rand, because it's 5,000. You are okay with me saying Rand when there's a dollar sign. It doesn't really matter what currency it is, but anyway, she's just been putting 5,000 Rand a month, 5,000 Rand a year for 10 years. So all she's put in is 50,000 Rand. Then we have Bill. Bill's the green guy here. Bill puts 5,000 Rand a month, a year, between the ages of 35 and 65. So what happens to old Bill is he's been putting in all these years, every single year, and he invests 150,000 Rand over this period of 30 years. And look where his investment is versus that one. And the reason for this is compound interest. So what happens with Susan's money, she puts this money in, she starts earning interest right from the beginning, and the interest earns interest, and there the interest earns interest, and her 50,000 increases in value, and as it increases in value, it earns interest, and the bigger it gets, the more interest it earns. So it's the magic of saving is when your money starts working for you and you earn interest on interest. That really is where the magic is. And then lastly, we have Chris. Chris invests 5,000 Rand annually every year between the ages of 25 and 65. So this is a very dedicated saver. He starts there, 5,000 Rand a year, 5,000 Rand a year, and of course he puts in 200,000, whereas poor old Bill puts in 150,000. 150,000. Bill ends up after 30 years with 540,000. Chris, the only difference between Chris and Bill is that Chris started 10 years earlier, and look at what he has there. I cannot stress this enough, that you should start saving as soon as possible, like yesterday. The younger you are, the better. It doesn't mean that if you are over 25 that you've missed the boat. The point is to start as soon as possible. I see a lot of clients, and a lot of clients are in their 40s, and they say, oh, you know what, I've just realized I've got 20 years to go until I retire. In fact, it takes people probably until they're 55 when they wake up and say, oh, I need to put money away because I want to retire one day, my company doesn't have a retirement fund. What must I do? And then we calculate it backwards. I say to them, well, how much would you like to have as an income in today's spending terms? And I go back to that spreadsheet I showed you earlier, where you have a basic idea of what you're going to need when you retire, taking out things like bonds and school fees and that kind of thing. And they say, well, in today's terms, I need to have, let's say, 7,000 Rand. Okay. Then what I do is I calculate it forward, and I say, by the time you're 65, that 7,000 Rand actually needs to be 21,000 because of the effects of inflation. So let me ask you about your family history. How long do you have your parents lived? And we're looking at your longevity, because basically you've got to make sure that there's enough money until you die. So a good rule of thumb is to look at your parents, and you are probably going to live on average about 10 years longer than they are. So if you've got a 90-year-old father, bad news, you're probably going to live to be 100. And that is a fact, because the advance of the medical advances, the way we live, we are living better than our parents did, and that's a fact. In most cases, that's a fact. So we are all going to live longer than our parents, and the average is 10 years. So you're going to say, well, oh dear, okay. And then I calculate it backwards, and I say, right, if you want to earn 7,000 Rand a month, make that 21 at the time, you're going to have to put in, and it's an enormous amount, every month, because now you've left it until you're 45 or 50. And people say, well, I'm never going to do that. I actually don't know what to do. And then you have to do what my parents did and move in with me. And that's how, unfortunately, a lot of people live and cope, is that they then have to live with their children because they simply do not have enough money. They run out of retirement savings, if they've saved at all. The previous generation just didn't make any plans. My parents, for example, had no idea. They just didn't think about it. They worked for a company. The company had a pension fund, but they were maybe contributing 3% of their salary, and that really wasn't enough. So about the time they were 70, they'd run out of funds. My father lived to be 90, so there was a big problem. So they became financially dependent on me and my family. All right, so take away from the screen, and that is start saving yesterday. Put away as much as you can. Pay yourself, put it in the plastic bag, get yourself something where you commit to a monthly amount. Make sure it increases every year, and do that as soon as possible. Even if you say, well, I actually don't have any spare cash at the end of the month, try the little bag and put 2 Rand here and 5 Rand there, and do something, even if it's the tiniest amount. You'll thank me one day. Right, oh man, this thing. Okay. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about is the financial indicators. Now, this is probably something you hear on the news, and you think, oh, blah, blah, whatever. I don't know what they're talking about. It's normally at the end of a news report where they say, oh, the markets today are up by 14%, the All Share Index. Now, this is a South African term, so for those guys outside the country, you probably have, it's for them, it's called something else. Ours called the JSE, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange All Share Index. What they do is they take the top 150 shares, and they look at the average performance. Has it gone up? Has it gone down? They give it a value. The value, I'll quickly look up the value yesterday. All right, the All Share Index was sitting at 53,000 yesterday. So that's an amount that they allocate to the index. And it's really just looking at the top 150 shares, how did they do? Right, and they say, okay, the All Share Index is up from yesterday's 53,000 points up to 55,000 points. That's amazing. Wow, that's a 10% increase. Well, that is amazing, and not likely to happen at the moment. With COVID in March, the financial markets dropped by around 30%. It was just absolutely catastrophic that within a short period, it was like a week, the markets lost about 30%. So those people who had saved their entire lives for their retirement, for them it was almost like, so you've been saving for 50 years, sorry, the last 5 years were a waste, and you've just lost 30% of everything you've put away. So that's why you should care what the All Share Index does. It's vitally important. Get advice from a professional like myself who would be able to give you advice on where to invest according to how long you want to save for, what amount of risk you want to take. Is it for retirement? Is it for something short term? Is it for children's education? Is it maybe just to maybe build up money to buy a house, all sorts of things. So depending on how much and how long you want to save for, I'd be able to give you advice so that you're not exposed to a massive risk should the bottom fall out the market. Now, the most surprising thing about the bottom falling out the market in March was that it's increased again dramatically. And normally the slightest thing goes wrong in the country and our market just nosedives. Now, things are pretty catastrophic at the moment. There are so many people out of work. Production's up and running, but not at 100%. This whole COVID thing's turned the world completely upside down. It breaks my heart to see how many people are unemployed. The world is going into a recession. South Africa definitely. We were in trouble before COVID, and we are in deeper trouble now. It's going to take years for us to recover. But somehow, and I don't know this, and I don't understand this, and the markets are a bit of a mystery. Now, I'll talk quickly about what drives the market prices up and down. But let me just finish saying that the markets have recovered. Not close to where they were, but they have done rather well. And from the bottom, they've probably increased by 10, 15, and some shares have even increased by 20%, but they're nowhere where they were. They've just come off a lower base. So what drives the share market? The share market is driven by, they call it sentiment, and that is how people feel about things. So what happens is you have a company that everybody believes in and thinks it's going to do really well, like Microsoft, for example. Everyone says, Microsoft's fantastic. It's recession-proof. It's COVID-proof. So lots of people buy that share. Let's say, for example, you buy shares in Toys R Us, okay? And you buy those shares and you think, I'm going to buy shares just before Christmas. That shop's going to do really well before Christmas, and generally it does. Along comes COVID, and everything has to shut down. And of course, Toys R Us, the people are saying, oh dear, I better sell my shares because this company is not doing so well anymore. So it's like, I think the company is not going to do so well anymore, so I'm going to sell my shares before the value drops. And so that's the sentiment. It's like, I think it's not going to do well, or I think I need to get out because I have a feeling something bad's going to happen. And people sell their shares, and because it's supply and demand, the less demand, the lower the price. And it's always the opposite is also true. The higher demand, the higher the price. So the share markets are driven by people's feelings. If they think a company is going to do well, they will buy the shares. If they think a company is not going to do well, they sell their shares. And that makes it the biggest mystery on earth. You actually need to have a crystal ball to know what's going to happen. But what you can do, and what I help my clients with, is being able to separate shares that are high risk versus medium risk versus low risk, and things where no matter what happens, you actually can't lose the money you've put in. And that's at the moment what I'm advising all my clients to do. Put it somewhere like a bank where you're going to earn interest. You're not going to lose the money you put in. You're going to earn a bit of interest, and let's just ride out this COVID thing. Afterwards, once everything's settled down, we don't know how long that's going to be, then we can look at putting the money into something where the growth is going to be slightly higher and a little bit more exciting. Okay, that's the first one. So that's the JSE All Share Index. That's the one that drives everything, drives the value of people's retirement funds. Just when the stock markets are doing well, everybody's happy. Okay, next one is the US dollar exchange rate. So we're saying, okay, did you see where the rand's sitting versus the dollar? Now, yesterday, to buy $1 US would cost you 17 Rand 43. So what that means is, if you're importing anything and an item costs you $10, right? It's going to cost you 170 Rand to purchase that thing. If the US dollar, what they call strengthens, the Rand weakens. So if you're now importing something that costs $10, but the Rand has weakened and it now costs you let's say 18 Rand 50 to buy $1. So that's what you get to watch out about. And it's often misleading because they say the Rand has dropped. And when you say yesterday it was 17 Rand 43 and today it's 18 Rand 50, in your head you think, well, that's more. But what it means is going to cost you that much more to buy $1. So now when you're importing something that costs $10, and the Rand now, you now need 18 Rand 50 per dollar. It's now going to cost you 185 Rand to import that $10 item. The US dollar Rand exchange affects almost everything. It affects petrol because the oil price is determined in dollars. Every single item that is imported, from sneakers, Nikes, everything comes in and people pay for it in US dollars. It's the biggest currency in the world. 25% of the world market is the US dollar, and then we have the euro and the British pound, and then we have the Japanese yen, but the US dollar is the biggest currency in the world. So it's the one that we need to watch. It's the one that is the most powerful. The more the Rand weakens, the more expensive everything becomes in South Africa. The problem with that happening is that if there's a recession in South Africa, more and more people are out of work, people have less money, and everything that's imported just gets more expensive. And when you think about what's imported, it's car parts, it's cars, sometimes it's the oddest little things. It's like ingredients in paint. It's food. It is in absolutely everything. The only thing it doesn't really affect are things that are produced locally. But often things that are produced locally have components of it that need things that are imported. Right, if you look at your laptops, the price of your laptop is definitely affected by the US dollar Rand exchange rate. If the Rand weakens, your laptop is going to cost you a whole lot more. All right, and that's something I'm sure you've already noticed. So it's important to watch the US dollar Rand exchange rate. The higher it goes, when somebody says, oh my goodness, the Rand is weakened, it's 20 Rand to the dollar. You think, 20 Rand, that's not bad. Going to cost you 20 Rand to buy $1. If the Rand strengthens, let's say it goes down to 16 Rand a dollar, might also be a good idea to go and purchase some dollars, and I'll be able to. It's a very long discussion, and I'd be able to advise you on buying foreign currency as well and how to do it, and tax laws and all that kind of thing. But probably not a bad idea, because every time the Rand weakens, you will be the only one that is happy, because you now earn some dollars, and for every dollar you have, it's worth more in Rand. Okay. Oops. Oh man, I've got this very, very active finger here. Right, we're looking at Brent Crude. Okay, Brent Crude is the oil price. It is determined again by supply and demand. If the Brent Crude price goes down, the petrol price goes down. The other thing that affects the petrol price is the Rand-dollar exchange rate. So if the Rand strengthens and the Brent Crude price goes down, petrol goes down. If the opposite happens and the Rand weakens and the Brent Crude price goes up, it becomes more expensive. Petrol also affects absolutely everything, because everything needs to be transported. So if you have somebody growing cabbage in South Africa, somehow the cabbage has got to get from the farmer to the middleman to the shop, and that's going to use petrol. The more expensive the petrol gets, the more expensive your cabbage gets. The same with all imports. As the oil price goes up, it becomes more expensive to fly things in, bring it in by ship. The further something's got to travel, the more expensive it gets. So if something's being imported, just the travel costs alone are going to make it more expensive than something that's produced right next door to you. Okay, so that's Brent Crude. Okay, the Brent Crude price dropped immensely. You will probably have heard that during the lockdown, when the whole world was on lockdown, the Brent Crude price went through the bottom, and that was because there just simply wasn't a huge demand for it because people weren't driving, and everyone was saying, "Oh, it's so unfair now." But the petrol price is so low and no one's driving. Well, that's just how it works. Less demand, the price goes down. More demand, the price goes up. Right, now we have the repo rate. That's probably also something you've heard a lot about. What the repo rate is the rate at which the Reserve Bank, which is our big bank that looks after all our money, lends money to the normal banks, like your Standard, ABSA, all those kind of banks. And the repo rate is determined by our director of our Reserve Bank, and they have a look, and it's determined by a couple of factors. They look at the overall picture in South Africa. If our economy is not doing so well, they want people to spend more money so that it activates our economy. So they're going to say, well, we're going to make it cheaper to borrow money. So let's say at the moment the repo rate, at the rate at which the banks is 3.75%. Okay, so let's just make it 4%. And they lend that to the banks. The banks then have something called the prime rate, which is the next thing I'm going to be talking about. But the repo rate is the rate that the Reserve Bank lends the money to the banks, and the bank then lends the money to you. So what they do, they say, we would like to kickstart the economy by making people spend more money, is just to make it cheaper to borrow money. So on your credit card, there's an interest you pay, which I'm sure you're aware of because it hurts. The interest rates on credit cards are really high. So when the Reserve Bank says, right, we want people to spend more money, they're going to bring the repo rate down, which means that the banks are going to bring the prime rate down, which means that you're going to pay less interest on your credit card, which means it encourages people to spend more money. Or if you're buying a car, and big purchases like cars and houses, it makes a great big difference when the prime interest rate comes down. So that encourages people to spend money, and it brings money into the economy. If, for example, we then have something called inflation, and the inflation rate is too high, which means there's people are saying, oh hell, I can see everybody spending a lot of money. It's fantastic. I wonder what will happen if I push up the price of my cabbage. My cabbage is now R5 a cabbage, but I see everybody's got lots of money, so I'm going to push up the price of my cabbage to R7. And everybody does that, and everybody's pushing their prices up. Then the Reserve Bank will say, look at this, everybody's spending money they don't have. We're going to increase the repo rate to stop people spending so much money, so that the people that are selling their cabbages and all the other things stop increasing their prices, and that prevents inflation. Right. So that is a very simple overview of the markets. Now, what I'd like to do is open up the floor, use the Q&A part, and I'm going to quickly stop sharing the screen. Yeah, right, there we go. Wait, I've done something. Shizwe, I've done something here. I can't stop sharing my screen.
Oh, so the button that says share screen, sharing, you will click that one, and then
wait. I'm just hold on. I'm just going to close everything that I'm not using. There we go. Okay. Right. Okay, no, what I couldn't get back to, my tab wouldn't let me go back. All right, great, I'm back. Thank you for listening to that. I hope it made sense. And they're very complex concepts. And I've tried to make them simple, but I know that it's just one of those things. And it took me a long time before I completely understood this. Right, okay. In the chat function, please feel free to put up any questions, or otherwise chat to me. We're not that many people. You know, ask me questions. I'd also like you to. I'd like to encourage you. I'm going to offer you each a free consultation, which is just a chat with me, you know, on a general basis about, you know, how, I'm nearly 30 years old. This is my personal situation. I've got a child. I need to make provision for this. Do I need a will? How do I set it up? All that kind of thing. I'm going to type in my email address, and I encourage you to make contact with me, and we can have a chat via Zoom or any other way without any obligation, just so we have a chat and you can get a very good overview of your situation. Right, so here we go. Here's my email address.
I'm also going to launch a poll, so you guys will see that on your screen now. Do you budget? Can you maybe just respond and put your answers? Gerda, I learned so much today.
Really? That's fantastic.
I didn't know what Brent Crude was. Like, I hear that all the time, but I was like, I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I send Chesme the market indicators every night, and I know for a lot of people say, look, this stuff's really depressing, or I don't know what on earth you're talking about, so stop sending it to me. And Ches has been saying, please, most people don't know what this is about. Why is it important? Why should I care? So I'm glad you found that interesting. Any other questions? I see Nigel. Nigel, please feel free to make contact with me. We'll have a chat, and I'd love to chat to you at the Victoria Falls. In fact, what would be even better, I'd like to come and see you there, but at the moment I'm not going to be leaving my province for a long time.
I really enjoyed the financial needs template, because I've done that before, where I looked at my current expenses, and then when I planned for the business, I planned of like how I see the future of the business. So I looked at the future in that way, but I've never done the full assessment to say where what would happen specifically if I wasn't able to work, how things would work out in that scenario, what things would be like if I got retrenched. And like the thing is, I was retrenched twice, so I should have planned for that. And then even just looking at what the lifestyle would be like if I retire, what kind of life I'd like to have in the future. So I think that's really useful, and I'm going to definitely use that.
Yeah, do that. I know for a lot of people, they think that, you know what we all do. We look at other things as being terribly important, but spending time on our own things, we leave that. So you'll be working on work things all day long, and now there's something you need to do, like you need to I don't know, do some filing for your own stuff. I promise you that comes last. It's just how we are. So planning our own lives and planning our own finances is probably the last thing we do. If you are a bookkeeper, you'll be probably pathetic at looking after your own finances and keeping a list of your expenses. The basic thing, basic law I need to give you: beans in must exceed beans out. Right. Okay. So. Please feel free. Thank you for all those nice things you're saying. Yes, I'd love to visit, Nigel. Right. And also, if you need more clarity on anything I've spoken about, please feel free, and I'd love to hear from you. Now, if there are any of you that want to unmute yourself and shout at me, you're welcome. Could you give us an example how you'd react to a rate going up or down, say the JSE indicator? Oh, okay. All right. Let's say my reaction to my clients in March, which was a very good example, when the JSE went down, and it went down rapidly. It went down by 10% a day, 5% the next day. And people were saying, oh my goodness, do I need to get out of my investment? And the worst thing you can do at a time when the market is going down is sell, even though that's the person's immediate gut feel they want to sell. What happens is that you bought in at a higher price, and now you want to sell when your asset is worth less. It makes no sense. What we do know about markets is it's cyclical, so it goes up and it goes down. And what a lot of the mistake that most people make is they'll say, wow, for example, the Sasol share is doing really well. I think I'm going to buy it because I'm expecting it to go even higher. And then it doesn't. So it goes down. And then they say, oh my goodness, bad move, I better sell it. And then they sell low. And then the price goes up again and they say, oh, wait, it's doing really well. Let me buy some more. They buy some more and the share price goes down and they go, oh dear, bad move, let me sell. Every time you sell at a loss, you're losing money. So you just keep repeating this until you're broke. Worst thing you can do when the market drops, when the JSE indicator drops, is to sell. Sit it out, sell when it's high. It's something that if you're not daily involved in something like this, you wouldn't be keeping a tab on. So, don't feel bad. You say that you're not on top of it every day. That's my job. And that is my job also to advise my clients when something happens to say, look, at the moment, don't move. If the markets are doing well, say, right, let's have a look and let's reevaluate your portfolio and let's see if we can move it around. But that would be my advice. Do you have to need to be having a full-time job to start investing? No, as long as all you need is to have some form of income. Whether that's a full-time job or a part-time job, you just need to have beans coming in somehow. As if you have any money in your wallet, you can start investing or saving. Okay, saving is something you do short-term, investing is something you do long-term. So people often ask me, what's the difference between saving and investing? That is it. Saving short-term, investing is long-term, where your money starts working for itself, where you start earning interest on interest. So at time, if you are looking to start saving, R2 a day is saving. Put it into a piggy bank, a plastic bag, anything, and then congratulate yourself on it. You'll see that the more you put in, the more you can congratulate yourself, and you actually get quite proud of it. Hey, I'm doing well. I've got so much more money than I would have had if I wasn't putting my R2 a day into my plastic bag.
Yeah, and I mean, look at it as also a lifestyle change. So in the past, because I remember for myself, when I stopped smoking, I first calculated how much was I spending on smoking. I looked at that cost over a monthly period of time and over a year. And it calculated to be in about 12,000 Rand a year if you were smoking a 20 a day, which is a complete waste of money. So when I stopped, I started looking at putting that money away, even if I didn't actually, even if I started using it for something else. At the end of the year, if I had put at least something away that I would have been spending on something I was previously doing, then it makes it a lot easier. So that's just like an extreme example. But yeah, you can also look at it like that.
Yeah, it's amazing how even if you don't have money and you're a smoker, you will find money for cigarettes. And that's just the way it is. You can use that with anything. If you are addicted to, let's say, donuts, and you need your daily donut, even if you really don't have money, you will somehow make a plan to get your daily donut. And that applies to alcohol and drugs as well. There was a question earlier from a computer, PCA Computer 1. Hello, PCA Computer 1. There was a question about advice for separated parents who want to save for children's education, medical health, and so on. All right. Again, the point is, beans in must exceed beans out. So as long as there are beans coming in, money coming in, whether it's from a job you have, or whether it's from perhaps maintenance that your partner's paying, or if the partner's not paying, as long as you've got something coming in, the point is, put something away. All right. There are fixed ways of putting money away, and things for savings vehicles, particularly for children, where you can put a monthly amount into a savings account, and then included in that savings account is some life cover, that should you die before that child is finished its schooling, there's money there to finish the schooling. So you have these things available where it's savings plus a bit of insurance, because you don't know what's going to happen. If you have a good relationship with the other parent, to discuss it with them and say, how about we do this together? We can both put some money away, even if it's a tiny amount, because the problem is that people don't have a lot of money. And they say, well, where's this money going to come from that I so desperately need to save? Well, it comes from the smallest thing, the plastic bag with the R2 a day into it, or the monthly commitment, the 10 Rand, the 100 Rand, the whatever you can afford to put away. If it's a specific problem or specific education you want to save for, I could give you advice and say, right, I know that if you want to send your child to X school, the school fees at the moment cost that much. By the time your child gets there, taking inflation into account, it's going to cost a little bit more. So you need to put this much money away. The interesting thing, though, is probably sending your child to nursery school is going to be the most expensive part. Once they get to school, and they go to a public school, it gets cheaper, and by the time they get to university, it ends up being even cheaper. The thing that people need to really save for is the expenses that children incur, things like car repairs. If they buy a car, helping them to, for example, put a deposit down on a car. Saving for a child's education does make sense. Something very, very few people do, and something that people kind of cope with as they go along. And then afterwards, when they look back and they say, I don't know how I managed. I don't know where that money came from, but it does come from somewhere. But if you'd like me to look at that specifically, give me an send me an email and we'll look at it. Okay, PCA Computer 1, thank you for that question. PCA Computer 1, what is your name? It does feel like I'm talking to...
That's Nolutando.
Sorry?
That's Nolutando.
Nolutando. Okay, Nolutando. That feels better. It felt like I was talking to a screen there. Nolutando, have you got to put on your screen? I want to see what you look like. Put on your video.
You want to make sure she's not a bot.
Hello. Nolutando, what part of the world are you in?
I am in Johannesburg, Soweto.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, nice to see you. I can see you somewhere in Johannesburg because you're cold.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, brilliant. Listen, I also just wanted to congratulate the entire group for working with Chesway. I think what she has here is absolutely brilliant brilliant idea. And I just think it's wonderful that you're working with her, taking life seriously, taking control of your lives, using this lockdown period so constructively. Okay, Shizra, is there anything else you would like me to say, expand on?
No, so I'll also send out, there's a nice budget template that I found long ago. It's specifically for people with debt, where
Yes.
it helps you to calculate how to get rid of debt while trying to save. It helps you to do a snowball effect. So I'll find that, I'll share it with everybody. And then you've got your number there, but I'll also share it again in the group to share your email. Yeah, and I mean, whenever people just need to coordinate times nicely so that you know, they can contact you during office hours.
Yes.
But I think that it's really nice of you to reach out and let everybody contact you. So that's really cool.
By all means, yeah.
I mean, it's one of the things that changed my life.
Fantastic. Yeah, the other thing is I can also help you work on a plan to get rid of debt. Perhaps consolidate it, pay off the ones with the highest interest rates first, that kind of thing. But it's something we can work on together. All right. So it was fabulous meeting you all, and thank you so much for taking the time out. I hope you have a wonderful Friday. A nice weekend, and I really hope the weather's going to warm up. I envy the people that are living north of us, because I'm sure it's much warmer there. But thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it immensely.
Thank you so much, Gerda. Are we going to have a follow-up session in the future?
Well, if you'd like one, oh, absolutely. Absolutely, yes. Just let me know, and if anyone's interested, I'll definitely be available to do it.
Okay, cool. And thank you everybody for connecting. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.